So now there is a new shiny pill out there. There is a pill, but it's primarily an injection. And that is what we all have been hearing about. It's semaglutide, Wegovy, Ozempic, tirzepatide is another one. And they just can't keep these on the shelf. So we're going to go through and talk about these medications and helpful supplements, but I want you to focus on how you can be your own hero, how potentially you can use these as a tool, but not as the main thing.
Welcome to the Dr. Ashley Show.
Welcome to the Dr. Ashley Show. I'm Dr. Ashley, and today we're going to dive into a topic that is like on fire when it comes to weight loss, and that is the use of supplements and medications for weight loss support. Right now, $2.1 billion is spent in the U.S. per year on supplements for weight loss in particular. And with this new medication craze that we'll get into in a bit, they forecast that the market will be $150 billion per year. So this is something that's a bit out of control, and I want to dive into it so you understand what medications might be helpful to your weight loss and what might hinder your weight loss speed, and then also what supplementations might be beneficial and worth your money. But before we dive in, I want to share with you a little bit about my history with medications and supplements when it comes to weight loss, because I do have a history with it. Many of you might know my backstory, but if you don't, I was a professional ballet dancer, and my career was constantly fought with not being able to achieve the body ideals that I needed for the sport. And I was told that I was fat countless times despite restricting calories like crazy. I was injured. I had stress fractures all over my body because I didn't feed myself right. And because I had a constant struggle and I couldn't seem to achieve my goals with food and movement, I did take some supplements, and not really medications, but more supplements to try to help get me there. And the summary of the story is that they didn't help get me there, but they gave me crazy side effects. I remember I was dancing with one company and I was really fighting to get my weight down. And I would exercise after an 8-hour day of dancing, and I would go to the gym and get on the elliptical to burn more calories. And I was taking like this green tea bitter orange extract supplement that was marketed for weight loss, and it gave me rapid heartbeat. And whenever I went out in the sun, and I was in like high altitude Colorado around the Aspen area, and I was up in the sun with the UV really strong, and oh my gosh, I would burn so easily and get crazy rashes on my skin. So I had to let that one go. And then I went on to the fat blocker, and that gave me and gifted me with many trips to the restroom. And then I had to let that one go because it just couldn't work for my gut. And so then I went with the carb blocker, which kept me from the bathroom. And I never found good success, and I spent a good, decent amount of money and had really negative side effects associated with the supplements instead. And, I see people come into PhD weight loss where we help folks drop weight without medications or supplements or anything besides just real food and behavior change, because that's what changed my life. That's how I want to impact other people. It's my mission to help people to step up and better their lives and become self-sufficient. And I understand from my own journey that taking medications and all these drugs does not make one self-sufficient. You want to be able to do this and maintain it really with it coming from inside you, always having a guide and support and learning from people. The ultimate goal, I believe, and my mission is to help people not need anything from the outside, but be self-sufficient in dropping weight and keeping it off. But folks would come in, and when I started PhD over a decade ago, HCG was pretty big. And HCG is human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. And it's a hormone that we produce when we're pregnant, which is interesting that we give it to men and women who aren't pregnant. But people would come in and be like, oh my gosh, I dropped all this weight taking HCG, and now I quit the hormone and it all came back. Or they would have a belief that they couldn't drop weight without HCG. But when you really look at the research of HCG, there's no scientific evidence showing that it did anything. It does cause hormonal imbalance, which is not good. HCG, when it comes to weight loss, is always pair matched with a severely restrictive caloric diet. So people are consuming about 800, maybe 500 calories a day. And research shows that it's really just the severe calorie restriction that allows for the weight loss and has nothing to do with the HCG. And when you severely restrict calories like that, it's really negative. I've talked a lot about that in previous episodes. So go back and listen to them. The one specifically on the weight loss myths talks a lot about the impact of severely restricting calories. So we know that HCG really doesn't do much, and that has been an industry where people have spent so much money. So now there is a new shiny pill out there. There is a pill, but it's primarily an injection. And that is what we all have been hearing about. It's semaglutide, Wegovy, Ozempic, tirzepatide is another one. And they just can't keep these on the shelves. I was at a doctor getting some kind of skin lotion, and it was a script. And she's like, well, this might be about 4 to 6 weeks until you get the script because all of the pharmacists are busy filling this injection. Everyone is taking it for weight loss. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today. But in general, I want you to understand, and you need to understand that there's no magic pill. There is no cure-all to this weight gain that you might be experiencing. It requires a lifestyle change. There is no way but through. You've got to do the work. And if you focus, again, on something that's outside of you and you depend on that, then you're going to find time and time again that you're not able to keep the weight off for good. So we're going to go through and talk about these medications and helpful supplements, but I want you to focus on how you can be your own hero, how potentially you can use these as a tool, but not as the main thing. So the deal with Ozempic and Wegovy is it's a type 2 diabetic drug. It's meant to help people who have type 2 diabetes. And how it works is it mimics this specific hormone, which is called GLP-1 in the body. And this GLP-1 hormone is usually or is always released as a result of eating food. So after you eat this food, your body releases this GLP-1. And what it does is a lot of good things. It reduces glucose production. So what that means is, let's say you eat some oatmeal for breakfast, which is a high carb item. I don't actually advise that you eat oatmeal for breakfast for that reason, but let's in this example say that you do. What happens is you metabolize that oatmeal and it goes out into your blood as glucose. And you can think of glucose like sugar. It's the same thing. It goes into your blood as sugar. And so this GLP-1 might work to reduce the amount of sugar in the blood, just your body produces a little bit less of it. It also helps glucose be taken up by your muscle cells. So if we continue along this metabolism, now you have this sugar in your blood. And the body doesn't like much sugar in the blood, only about 1 to 2 teaspoons at any given time. Anything above that is a bit toxic to the body. So as a result of this, your muscle cells need to open up so that the sugar from the bloodstream can flow in and your muscle cells can take that energy and then use it for you to go about your day and fuel your day. So what this GLP-1 hormone does is it helps the muscle cells take up the glucose in a speedy fashion and in a successful way. Because most of the time, if you have type 2 diabetes, I want you to imagine that those muscle cells can't open. So this sugar is basically stuck outside of the muscle cell with nowhere to go. And that's when you have high blood sugar, high blood glucose levels, and you become pre-diabetic or diabetic. So this hormone that we release after we eat helps to open up the muscle cells and then also makes you more sensitive to insulin. So if we continue along this pathway of metabolism that we're talking about, when your body has this high glucose, high sugar in the blood, let's say from eating this oatmeal, it needs to go into the muscle cells, just like I said. Well, it can't go into the muscle cells by itself generally. And what it needs is it needs insulin. And insulin, I want you to imagine, is like a little key and it travels around. The pancreas secretes insulin. And this insulin travels around and it opens up that muscle cell so that the sugar can flow in there. And so you want to be really sensitive to insulin. The minute insulin touches that cell, you want it to open right up and take up that sugar. That's what happens generally when we're young and not struggling with childhood obesity, which we now do a lot, unfortunately. But that's what should happen in a healthy body. And this hormone helps to do that. And then it helps to reduce blood pressure and it helps with endothelial function, which means your blood vessels are healthier and more flexible. So this injection of Wegovy, Ozempic, semaglutide supposedly does a lot of these things because it mimics that hormone, and that's really great. From a weight loss perspective, it has shown to help people reduce their total body weight by 15%. And I'm not great with math, but if you are 250 pounds, then it might help to decrease your weight by, I'm doing this off the cuff here, 35 pounds. I might not be perfect, but there's the gist there, 35, 40 pounds. And so it can be helpful, and it shows that it does this over the span of 68 weeks, and then pretty much all the benefits with weight loss stop. So are there downsides? There are downsides for sure. And the fact is that it causes and works to help people drop weight by the feelings that it gives you. And for most people, it gives you the feeling of morning sickness and being really nauseous. The level of nausea varies, and I've had folks share with me their varying experiences. And some people just feel, nauseous, kind of like when you're car sick, you just don't feel like eating, or it can make you vomit or have diarrhea or feel really run down and flu-like. And how it works in that way is that you just eat less and you don't want to eat very much. And so what we're finding is that people are dropping weight because they're not eating as much. But as a result, they're dropping this 15% of their body weight. Everyone's different, but on average, but the majority of it, 2/3 of this weight that they're dropping comes from muscle mass. And this is a really, really big issue because muscle mass is your predictor of longevity. It's the predictor of your metabolic speed. It is your metabolic currency. And as you age, you do not want to drop your muscle mass. That's what generally happens. So you have to fight to maintain your muscle mass as you age. You have to, lift heavy things and get in the gym if you really want to maintain your muscle. And most of us don't do that. And we're taking this drug, which is really making us lighter, but fatter at the same time. So you need to be very careful when it comes to that. And then also it seems to elevate heart rate. And we know that having a chronically elevated heart rate is not good for our general health. And then if you don't take the drug, you don't keep the weight off because most folks are dissociating it also or accompanying it with a lifestyle change and changing the way they think and feel about food and looking at habits and behaviors. Most often it's just an injection that you're taking, and the cost of it is very high. Right now, insurance isn't covering it. So for most people, it's $1,000 a month or more. So people are spending about $12,000 to $16,000 per year. And again, if you stop taking it, the weight comes back. So this is not just a one-time fee, it's an annual fee that people are having to spend. So it could be a tool for you if you've struggled, but it's hard for me to say that because I am biased. I see thousands of people dropping weight with us at PhD Weight Loss without the need for that and keeping it off. But I know that not everybody has access to that, and there are different strokes for different folks. But I just want you to be cautious of the downsides and be aware that if you are using it, you need to make sure that you're getting adequate protein, that you're lifting weights, that you're also changing your behaviors, habits, mindset, your lifestyle, so you can get off of this stuff and be self-sufficient. When you don't want to use this for sure is if you've got less than 30 pounds to drop. Let's say you just want to drop weight to fit in your bikini. The cons definitely outweigh the pros, and you need to just go about dropping weight in a different way. And I'm pretty passionate about that. So medications that can stall your weight loss, let's go through a few of those. And I'm not a physician. This is not medical advice. I don't want you to stop your medications if I list one on here that might potentially slow weight loss, but definitely go to your doctor and say, hey, I've heard this might slow down my weight loss. Is there any other option? But oftentimes these drugs, their benefits might outweigh the negatives associated with weight, and you just have to weigh those and definitely talk to your doctor. So the first one is SSRIs, and those are drugs for mental health, and they work by changing the appetite. They might make you hungrier, and they can potentially slow your metabolism. Beta blockers, they work to help regulate your heart rate, and they reduce your exercise capacity. They shift hormones and can promote fat storage. They are really tough when it comes to weight loss. Birth control can change appetite, help promote fat storage and shift metabolism. And then diabetes drugs. So I talked a little bit about insulin earlier, and insulin is a fat storage hormone. That's one of the issues of treating diabetes with insulin. If you're on insulin, it's really difficult to drop weight consistently. Now, we help at PhD a lot of people put their type 2 diabetes into remission and let go of insulin needs, and we do it really quickly for most people. It's really exciting. The deal is that insulin really promotes fat storage. So if you are taking a drug that increases insulin or is insulin, it can be difficult. So those are the 4 groups of medications that really could stall weight loss. You might want to go again to your doctor and have a conversation. All right, so now let's talk about some supplements that can maybe be a supportive tool. So I hear of folks all the time being like, okay, it's my hormones and that's why I'm holding on to 80 pounds. I just need to find that magic shift in my hormones, or it's got to be something besides my diet and my lifestyle. And I'm telling you, there's likely nothing wrong with you. My husband is a functional medicine doctor and he's really great at what he does. And he's got folks who come to him and they're like, oh my gosh, I just need to find the secret as to why I'm putting on all this weight. I know it's got to be more than hormones. And they balance hormones and they might see like a 10, 15 pound drop, but it's not the basis of why all of this fat weight is hanging on. Usually, most often, 98% of the time, it's coming from how you're fueling your body and how you're moving your body and the lifestyle of stress and sleep and all of those things associated with it. I was working with a physician and she's a radiologist and really educated, obviously, and she works out all the time on her Peloton and she eats well. If she told you what she ate, you'd be like, oh my gosh, it doesn't make sense that you're carrying 40 pounds. She knows all about hormones. Her hormones were regulated and balanced. And she's just like, I can't figure this out. It doesn't make sense. And so she started with us at PhD. We just did little tiny tweaks. She couldn't believe it, but she was dropping 3 to 4 pounds a week on average at the beginning. And then her average probably came to 2.5 pounds a week. She actually reduced her exercise a little bit because the amount of exercise she was doing with the amount of sleep she was getting with her position and having 2 kids was just too much stress on her body. And that was a part of it. But a lot of it was how she was feeding her body. And a few months down the road, she was down her 40 pounds, maintaining it and feeling it great with just small, simple tweaks. So even if you feel like you're eating really healthy and everything's on track, there could be, and there's likely something off that we could tweak or that you could tweak and see significant change and impact from it. So these are some supplements. They're not going to be a magic pill, but they could help you and accompany a nutritionally sound meal plan and lifestyle plan for you. So I'm going to share with you amounts that you can consider taking, but again, everybody is really different. I wouldn't be comfortable with you taking this amount without checking with your doctor first. These are just general considerations. So the first supplement is Thai ginseng, and it works by increasing thermogenesis, which basically means that it increases your metabolism, and general recommendations are about 50 milligrams twice a day. The second supplement is kudzu. I guess that there is a benefit from kudzu besides it taking over the United States, but it reduces aromatase, and aromatase converts in men testosterone into estrogen, and it does the same thing by converting into more estrogen in the body in women, and we don't want to have high levels of that. So it can be helpful with weight loss. Considerations would be about 500 milligrams daily of kudzu. Chromium picolinate helps with thyroid function by taking T4 to T3 and reduces insulin resistance. So makes you more insulin sensitive, like I talked about, by opening up those muscle cells and letting them take up the sugar. And that would be about 600 to 1,000 milligrams a day. Coleus fuscoli is another herb that's helpful for thyroid and increasing metabolism, and that would be about 250 milligrams twice a day. And the last one that ranks high up there is green tea extract. This is the one that gave me heart palpitations and skin irritation when I went out in the sun. So just be careful. This has been shown to increase metabolism a bit, and the dosages of that are general considerations would be about 500 to 1,000 milligrams a day. That is the gist. But again, your ultimate goal is just like our mission at PhD, is to step up, to better your life, but to become self-sufficient. So whatever you choose to do, whatever you add into your routine, remember that your ultimate goal is not to need to depend on any of that, that you've got all that you need within yourself. So I hope that you got a lot of value from this episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, leave comments below. If anything has worked for you, share it, because other people are in here learning. We're all learning and growing together. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please subscribe and leave a review so that we can impact more people together and change the trajectory of the health of our world. So remember, you've got to step up to make a change. Lead with your heart, train your mind, and do not negotiate with your body. See you next time.